And so I think about this subject of our yellow school buses in that regard. Because think about it, yellow school buses are our nation's largest form of mass transit. How about that? Every day. So yes, and let's applaud because it gets them where they need to go. And every day, then think about this in terms of the numbers. Every day in our country, more than 25 million children ride to and from school on our nation's fleet of school buses. Every day. Mm-hmm. I heard the teachers. How about Marisa? Jerry Connolly, thank you for your leadership. A neighboring district, he said, I'm going to kind of try and own this district too. It's not in my notes, but I'll tell you, it just on a personal level, teachers. I love our teachers. I love our teachers. Let's see all the students who are here. There
are so many faiths that do not have the same definition of life as fundamentalist Christians. And so what about their rights? What about their right to exercise their faith? It's ridiculous. And it is theocratic. It's authoritarian. It is wrong.
So yesterday, nearly 50 members of Congress sent over a letter to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi urging her to bring the Senate bill to the floor for a vote. Pelosi dodged the question.
I think that any need for protection should relate to whatever threat that is there, and that's a judgment that is made by our law enforcement people.
Thank you. The Senate passed bill, Madam Speaker. It passed unanimously. Do you have a plan to bring it up for a vote in the House?
I said, care for and protection depends on the threat, and that's up to the law enforcement.
About the FDA. Because, in fact, they were sent September. They looked at the plant. There was suspicion. October, the whistleblowers report. They didn't do anything about interviewing the whistleblower until December. January, they went back into the plant, found the contamination, and then you have the recall in February. The FDA is culpable, dragging their feet and not holding Abbott to an FDA standard. Both of those pieces are being investigated right now. And I'm engaged in that investigation, calling for an inspector general investigation.
Take a step back. The idea that the United States of America is having to import baby formula from Switzerland because mothers are running down to one can or even less to try and feed their babies. They literally cannot feed their babies. And this is in 2022. The world's biggest military, the world's biggest economy can't get baby formula to people. Just seems, frankly, it seems kind of unbelievable. If somebody had told this to me a couple of months ago, I would have never have believed that this was going to happen. This headline started cropping up 2 or 3 weeks ago. And 2 or 3 weeks ago, there wasn't very much attention being paid to this. The first stories I saw about it back then, I thought, I hope the White House is on this because this has the potential to blow up in their faces politically in a very big way. And of course, much more importantly, it is causing huge amounts of stress to parents. So
let's go back a little bit as we talk about how we got here and we try to figure this out. There were some inspections back last fall, a whistleblower report out of that facility in October that there were some problems there. And then ultimately, as you say, it was closed in February. Should there have been some guidance, some notice much earlier in the process, say last fall, where the White House and the government could have anticipated some of this and say, hey, this place may shut down. What's our contingency plan?
Yes, Willie, there was a lot of mistakes made here.
But can you comment on the 3 examples I just gave? You say you want to increase supply. Everything I just said is about directly decreasing supply. What about those? NPRA, Cook Inlet, new NEPA rules.
I hear what you're saying.
Do you agree with me that those are about limiting supply?
No, it's not about
Of course
limiting
they are. When
supply.
you take leases off the table.
But maybe there are other concerns why a lease might be taken off the table in a sensitive environmental area. Maybe
half
it has
of the
nothing
National
to do
Petroleum
with
Reserve of Alaska?
this is not my lane. So
Cook Inlet?
And I understand that there was no interest on the part of those who wanted to.
That's fundamentally a lie.
Okay. Well,
but again, that's not yours.
Again, this is not. These are not my areas of responsibility.
How about the NEPA rules?
Again, that's EPA. That's not me.
No, that's the White House. CEQ.
Well, let me just say this. We want to see an increase in supply, and we want it to be done in a responsible way.
The actions I'm just saying laid out in the last 3 weeks would indicate directly otherwise. there has been a comprehensive hostility to the energy sector by this administration, not necessarily you, day one. I watch it every day. Every day. So you're saying we need to increase supply. Let me give you just the last 3 weeks. The Department of Interior, again, not you, announced that they're taking half of the National Petroleum Reserve set aside by Congress for oil and gas drilling in my state off the table. The most prolific oil reservoir in the world right now. Everybody who explores there finds billion-barrel fields. Secretary Holland, your colleague, came to Alaska and announced half of it's off the table. That is not focused on increasing supply. It's the opposite. Let me give you another one. Last week, Cook Inlet Basin. Okay, that's the other prolific oil and gas field in Alaska. At the last minute, the Biden administration canceled the lease sale. That is exactly the opposite of getting supply on the market. 3 weeks ago, the Council on Environmental Quality issued new NEPA rules. Everybody and their mother knows what they are. They're meant to delay energy projects. I read them in detail. This is the last 3 weeks. NPRA off the table, Cook Inlet lease sale canceled, and NEPA rules to kill the production of American energy. That's what you guys just did. Do you have a response to any of that? And I'd like details. And maybe you don't know. And look, I'm not coming after you. The Department of Interior is a disaster from day one. And day one, President Biden came and said, oh, and we're going to stop anything in ANWR. He can't do that. The Congress of the United States said there shall be 2 lease sales in ANWR. President, day one, we're not going to do ANWR. Sorry, Mr. President, your job under the U.S. Constitution is to faithfully execute the law. The law says 2 lease sales.
And that timeline is important because contrary to what we've heard, this didn't just sneak up on people. This has been many months in the making.
I was talking to my brother about the millions of refugees at the border that are being coordinated and organized through different organizations. The U.S. military and Poland, they don't have a baby formula shortage. Why? Because people foresaw the need and acted accordingly, and it was organic. That was his answer to me. Right here in America, we had a situation that could have been predicted. The shortage was predictable, but yet there's no organic and no real leadership on this that is strong enough to move the meter.
The FDA dragged its feet. They knew in September, they knew in October through a whistleblower's report that there were serious infractions. They didn't interview the whistleblower until December. They went back in January and they found contamination, and the recall only occurred in February, and that was 4 months. Why 4 months? There's got to be answers to that question from the FDA.
Today, our economy is about 3% larger, even accounting for inflation, than it was just before the pandemic, and that's the fastest recovery in the G7. So this success was not given. It wasn't a given. It was rather, it's been our work over the past 17 months that have resulted in well-designed and well-administered policies that have provided the tailwind for long-term recovery.
And Abbott closed in February. Should the administration have seen a shortage coming?
Well, we had responded immediately when the notice went out for the recall. USDA took immediate steps within a matter of days to create the waivers that would allow for existing WIC state agencies to be able to utilize these flexibilities to get product on the shelf. Then the second part of this was opening up to imports. The third part was to making sure that the Abbott facility could get back online as quickly as possible with the Defense Production Act, basically having the ability to have the ingredients to sort of jump the line.
But the DPA didn't go into effect until a few days ago. The plant closed in February, and the shortage has been going on now for weeks with a lot of people sounding the alarm. I'm wondering, when Abbott closed its facility and knowing that Abbott has cornered the majority of the market, should there have been warnings, alarms raised within the administration that there could be an issue that would keep formula from babies in this country? And I ask this because some babies have been hospitalized because they're not getting enough to eat.
The first order of business was to make sure that we got the recall in place.
I think it's really important for us to have eyes on what happened with Shireen Abu Akleh in Palestine. A lot of times people say, like, oh, like, you're treating this differently, and you're picking them out and treating them differently. Our tax dollars are a part of this. Our resources are a part of this. We can't even get health care in the United States, and we're funding this. There has to be some sort of line that we draw. It has to stop.